This is your Barbados Today Morning News Update for Wednesday, March 27th, 2019. Thanks for joining us. I'm Carol Williams. Political scientist Peter Wickham is predicting the demise of the fledgling United Progressive Party. It comes as Chairman Lynette Eastman revealed that she will not be contesting the position during today's election of a new executive. Eastman told Barbados Today she is giving other members a chance to lead.
I think it appropriate to give as many people in the party as possible, as much exposure as possible, because obviously we're training up people in order to be able to take on big roles in government. So for different individuals to take on the leadership role, we believe to be important, and I believe it to be important. So it's important that we have different individuals who can step up and lead the party.
However, Wickham says Eastman was the primary figure in the party and its future is now in question.
Now, without her as chairman, the party will essentially come to nothing. The party was really about Lynette Eastman. I mean, she was the face of the organization. If she steps out of the picture as chairman, you know, one wonders what will become of that organization. Unless, of course, this is an attempt to make way for our new chairman. And if indeed the chairman is the face is already known to the politics, then that would be interesting. But that would also be a big shocker.
The names of the positions of the new UPP executive will be made public on Friday. Barbados needs to have a discussion on the limited number of black-owned businesses. That's the view of visiting Professor Jim Mandel, as the government continues to push for more Barbadians to become entrepreneurs amid public sector layoffs. During a lecture yesterday at the Caval campus of the University of the West Indies, the professor of economics emeritus at Colgate University in the United States said Barbados has an undersupply of entrepreneurs, particularly blacks, which creates challenges for the country. And he's saying that in order for the country to develop economically, the entrepreneurial class will have to welcome many more entrants from the now marginalized population.
I don't think anybody would argue that this is a biological or some kind of deep inherent predisposition not to be a business people. This is a product of history, and it is a problem that history has now presented to the society to overcome. It is a very touchy subject. This is not an easy problem to solve, but it is a problem that has to get solved. And just because it is a problem that history has endowed the society with, doesn't mean that the society should say, well, okay, we're fated to this and we cannot solve this problem. It is a historically rooted reality that black entrepreneurship was minimized, but it's a problem that has to be overcome today if economic development is to occur, and if the quite substantial standard of living that exists in Barbados is going to be sustained.
Put yourself in the shoes of the victim's family. That advice from veteran broadcaster and chairman of the Barbados Broadcast Authority, Dr. Alison Leacock, as Barbadians rush to post images online, including of violent incidents. During a recent discussion on internet governance at the Caval campus of the University of the West Indies, Dr. Leacock said people need to be empathetic.
Ultimately, there ought to be some sensitivity to the dignity of the person in the case of the kinds of scenarios that are now readily shared on WhatsApp and in social media in general. There is always a boundary. And I think that is where I was talking earlier about digital empathy, because even though you do have access to this level of immediacy, you're still talking about a person. You're still talking about a human being and their families that have feelings. So if somebody is brutally murdered and the pictures are graphic, you ought to pause as an individual, whether or not you are working or whether or not there is enough governance of that social media site. To ask yourself, how would I feel?
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
Over to St. Lucia, where Prime Minister Alan Chasney is facing heat over his decision to attend last week's meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump. As we hear from HGS News Force, the concern is coming from a parliamentarian.
The Member of Parliament for Castries South, Ernest Hilaire, has again questioned the wisdom of the select few heads of government of CARICOM for attending the Florida meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump. Hilaire says that this was a serious departure from the long-standing CARICOM position of a united front on foreign affairs matters.
We've had a long history in this region from colonial days of being divided for the benefit and purposes of colonial powers. And you would have wanted to believe that, ever since CARICOM, we would have recognized that there's strength in numbers. And one of the purposes of CARICOM is coordination of foreign policy, where we are supposed to coordinate our foreign policy and act as a bloc, having greater strength. I think as Prime Minister Rowley indicated, there are appointed persons who speak on behalf of CARICOM, especially as it relates to Venezuela. And if the President of the United States wanted to speak to the region about what's happening in Venezuela and chatting our way forward, those should have been the individuals to be present.
The Castries South MP sees the selection of a few heads of government of CARICOM as an attempt to divide the region.
And finally, the deadly Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo has surpassed 1,000 cases. It's the second deadliest and second largest Ebola outbreak in history, topped only by one in West Africa in 2014, when the disease killed more than 11,000 people. Last week, the World Health Organization reported a rise in the weekly rate of confirmed Ebola cases after several weeks of decline. The organization cited increased security challenges, including the recent direct attacks on treatment centers and pockets of community mistrust as causes for the uptick. And that's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook. And sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM. I'm Carol Williams. Have a good day.